Hello, good evening. You're watching ITV News Central. More than 200 jobs are to go at Cadbury in Bourneville in a deal which will secure the chocolate maker in Birmingham for the next 25 years. Long-serving members of staff will be offered payouts of more than £100,000 to take voluntary redundancy. Cadbury says the deal means it can invest £75 million in production lines to modernise operations. Mark Goff reports.
They call it the nation's favourite. Cadbury's dairy milk is just one of the lines made at the Bourneville factory in Birmingham, along with a few other household names. But the production lines they're made on are old.
And here it is, as we shall meet it in the grocer's shop.
Admittedly not quite as old as these on this Cadbury archive film, but so old that the Bourneville factory was inefficient and isn't cost effective. Mondelez International, the owners of Cadbury, have 15 plants around Europe where they can choose to make any chocolate. A factory which costs too much wouldn't be the first choice. So they agreed to spend £75 million modernising the Bourneville plant. In return, staff have to be more flexible, and jobs had to go.
If we hadn't put this agreement in place, this site may have withered on the vine, which is unbearable to think of for this region. There's 15 sites within the European chocolate manufacturer, and Cadbury was well down the league. This will put us up to about 4th or 5th position, which will enable us to compete efficiently and effectively on a level playing field with the other chocolate manufacturing sites in Europe.
205 people are going. They're all voluntary redundancies, with an average payoff of £100,000. It'll still leave about 800 people making chocolate, the same number again in the rest of the operation.
Well, what this does mean is that it secures the next generation of manufacturing here in Bourneville. And that really has to be great news for everyone, not just the people who work here, but also the region itself. From the beginning, we were very clear that to secure this £75 million investment in Bourneville, that this site would need to become more cost competitive. Both sides agreed that this would mean that there will be fewer people working here in Bourneville in the future, but our preference was always to secure that through voluntary redundancies if at all possible.
So for how many more years will chocolate be made at Bourneville?
Well, up to 25 years, I'd say, and then there's, if we prosper and develop from there on, bringing new products even longer, I'd say.
The union says alongside famous Cadbury names, the Bourneville factory will now be making Milka and Toblerone, also owned by Mondelez.
From our point of view, this is a chocolate manufacturing site, and we'll probably make the Milka and Toblerone better and have it tasting better than what it is currently.
So for now and for the foreseeable future, both management and the union agreed that the prospects for the Cadbury factory appear to be rosy. Mark Goff, ITV News, Bourneville.
Well, meanwhile, the trust which runs Russell's Hall Hospital in Dudley has announced up to 400 posts will go over the next 2 years to try to save £14 million. The Dudley Group says it's overspending and predicts it will have a deficit of more than £7 million by the end of March. It says the jobs would all be non-clinical posts and would help it to achieve financial stability. The group says it will seek voluntary redundancies in the first instance.
I know how hard the doctors and the nurses and all the other staff, midwives, all of the staff there, how hard they're working. They're working flat out to provide a service to patients in Dudley, and there's no way we can afford to lose 200 or 400 of those jobs, 200 over the next few weeks, 400 over the next year, without a real impact on the service that they work heroically, that they're battling to provide.
Police investigating the disappearance of a woman from Coventry have been searching an allotment site in Leicester. Samina Imam, who's 34, was last seen on Christmas Eve leaving the Costco in Coventry where she worked. Police have been at a site off Gruby Road in Leicester today. Searches are also continuing at a house in the city. 2 men have been charged with her murder. People from the Midlands seeking compensation after being infected by contaminated blood in the 70s and 80s have been watching a debate in Westminster. Many victims contracted life-threatening conditions when they were given transfusions with blood that had not been tested. Various inquiries have taken place over the years, but victims are still waiting for answers in what's been described as the biggest health scandal in decades.
I've written to David Cameron and said, how is it you are able to find and actually set aside substantial millions and millions of pounds in overseas aids, but in your own backyard you have a tragedy of a scale never seen before in the history of the NHS, and you refuse to deal with it?
We're now kind of resigning ourselves to the fact that it's going to be the next Parliament, when I actually truly believe that this Parliament has the power and has the track record that they could do something about this now, and they don't have to wait.
Well, Public Health Minister Jane Allison was at today's debate and said in Parliament that she is awaiting the outcome of a report. It's due to be completed by March, after which she or a representative from the Department of Health will respond further. Police are investigating claims a UKIP MEP representing the West Midlands was subjected to racial abuse on social media because of his Romani Gypsy background. James Carver went to Worcester Police Station last week to file his complaint. He says while politicians are used to negative messages on social media, this particular tweet overstepped the mark.
I'm not against free speech. One has to accept, and I think if you're a politician from any political party, we're fair game, but this clearly overstepped the bounds of decency, and I reported to police, and the professional approach from West Mercia Police have shown how serious they've taken my allegations.
The film producer Lord Putnam was in Stoke-on-Trent today to open a pioneering new school that aims to help pupils who have dropped out of mainstream education. Innovation School Stoke is part of a not-for-profit education trust that works with some of the region's most challenged young people. It currently has 7 students. Callum Watkinson went along to see what they made of Lord Putnam's visit.
Anyway, here we go. It's a long way from Hollywood to Stoke-on-Trent, but multi-award-winning film producer Lord Putnam was here today to launch Innovation School Stoke. Based within an existing school, its aim is to re-engage children who have given up on mainstream education. And the veteran movie maker believes TV and film are tools well suited to that task.
It's impossible to imagine young people not being engaged with the audiovisual medium in a way that wasn't likely 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. I mean, the mobile phone is their tool of choice. That's what they do. The technology itself offers a lot more avenues to learning, to understanding, to communicating than the traditional teaching methods.
Perhaps best known for the historical drama Chariots of Fire, which swept the board at the Oscars in 1982, Lord Putnam has been involved in education for almost as long as he's been making films, with a particular interest in the special needs of those left behind by the crowd. Sitting in on a filmmaking masterclass, 13-year-old Tom has Asperger's syndrome, was bullied all through primary school and has been taught at home by his mother ever since. He's one of the 7 children ISS is trying to help. His reaction to meeting Lord Putnam a clue perhaps as to the size of the challenge now facing those responsible for his education.
Kind of reminds me of Robin Williams for some reason.
In what way?
I don't know, maybe his beard.
Is filmmaking something that you might be interested in later in life, do you think?
Not really. I don't think I'd have the skills.
All of our children that we've got on roll at the moment have disengaged from education. Some of them disengaged from life, really, and they've been really isolated for very different reasons. You wouldn't want your own child going on that journey. They've been on sort of horrific journeys, really. So we're trying to unravel that.
A noble, yet undoubtedly challenging endeavour, and it's hoped this will be the first of many visits by those at the top of their profession that might provide these children with a little inspiration. Callum Watkinson, ITV News, Stoke-on-Trent.
Scientists from the universities of Leicester and Warwick have started a project to discover new planets. They're working with the European Southern Observatory to install telescopes in northern Chile. The telescopes are so sensitive that they'll be able to spot planets the size of Neptune. Now time to have a look at how the weather is shaping up a little closer to home. With the details, here's Janelle.
What's in store for today? ITV Local Weather, sponsored by Centre Parks.
Hello, we've got a windy night on the way with some isolated showers and it's also going to be feeling pretty cold. We've got lows of 0 degrees. As I mentioned, there's an isolated shower, although it's mainly dry and it could contain something wintry on the higher ground. But for most of us, we're looking at a dry night and a windy night too. Now, those winds finally begin to ease down tomorrow morning. We're expecting a bright start to the day. By the afternoon, we'll see more in the way of sunshine, but again, there is the risk of seeing the odd isolated shower, highs of 5 Celsius. But back to tonight, well, it's windy with the odd isolated shower. Good night.
ITV Local Weather, sponsored by Centre Parks.
That is it from us for now. Just time to point you in the direction of our website. As ever, plenty more from us there. The details on the screen right now, itv.com/central. We are back bright and early tomorrow with bulletins within Good Morning Britain. Until then, from the Late Team, have a great evening. Goodbye for now.